We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live and we are coming to you from paceradio.net. I'm your host, Al Graham, and tonight my joint host, Kim Cooper, has invited a guest for tonight that has been providing patients with education, knowledge, and access to medicine, plus so much more. But as always, it's time for Kim and I to have a chat, as we usually do, and tonight's chat, Kim is going to be on...
I'm going to be on. I'm sorry, I missed all of that, and my headset fell over.
Oh, tonight we have an extra joint host here on the program, as we have.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I'm pretty excited about the guest that we have on tonight, but I am also excited about our joint host that is joining us tonight. We've brought Cindy Howell from the Reefer Reporters, as well as the Psychedelic Reporters, as well as Open Your Eye, to join us as a special guest joint host tonight here on the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Cindy.
Hello, Kim. Hey, Al. How are you guys doing?
Good, doing well. And yourself?
Very well, thank you.
Yes. How's reading the news?
Doing good. You just got to read the news.
Just
really,
read the
I
news,
promise.
man.
Just read the news. Yeah. That's what you said a year ago. Hey, Cindy, just come read the news on Reefer Reporters. It's going to be easy. Yeah. Hi, how you doing?
I just rambled off like 4 shows. 4 shows later, and you're not even made it to your first year anniversary with the network. Yeah, we kind of put you on a bullet train around here, didn't we?
Yeah. I seem to be doing okay with it, though.
You're doing very well. You've not only just learned to do the news and everything. You're running 2 boards. You've learned to run the speaker board. You learned to run this StreamYard. You're covering on different programs here and there. So yeah. You've come a lot further than just reading the news. There's no doubt about that.
That is true.
Read the
Just read the news, Cindy. It'll be fun.
It'll be fun, I promise.
Well, it was. So was the rest of it, though.
I never lie.
It has
Still
been.
read the news.
Yeah, no, everything has been an absolute blast. I have seriously loved starting off Open Your Eye and Psychedelic Reporters with you. And I'm really excited that we are heading into that realm together. As well as everything else here at the Pace Radio Network. It's been wonderful education, and it has been a ton of fun, even though it's ended up to be more than just reading the news.
That's right.
We're only going this fast and at this pace and extension with you because you're a natural. You're very good at it. You're picking everything up quickly. You're great with the guests and all of it. So it's like, well, the next logical step is this, and here we go. We're moving again.
So Kim's plan here is just to get Cindy's feet wet here on the Pace Radio Show, because as everybody knows, it's just Kim and I here, and every once in a while Kim's going to need some time off because there's lots to do. She's building, getting her house ready for the winter, to just doing all those shows that she's already doing here. So there's the odd time that Kim's going to need some time off. So Cindy's getting her feet wet.
It'd be nice to have a night off once in a while, and it'd be nice to have somebody to call on so I wasn't leaving you hanging. So I had ulterior motives for bringing Cindy in tonight. It's like, well, you know what? It's about time she came on and joined us on the Pace Radio Show. She's never joined hosted here before, so let's see how that goes.
That's right. You know, you just never know, right? You have your health issues. All of a sudden you come down with your pancreatitis. You can't do the show, and Cindy's now done a show and have an idea on what's all required and be able to cover for you. And in the meantime, we're still on the hunt for somebody to do it on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Every other week was the plan, and originally, and it has been the schedule for the last 6-7 years since we've been together, doing the Pace Radio Show on a weekly basis. Every other week was mine, and lately it's been every week. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So joint host in the future for sure, but I'll tough it out in the meantime. And if I do need a day off after tonight, we'll be able to call on Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. Oh, just so you know, Ron says hi.
Hey, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
He's on tomorrow with Cindy?
Yeah.
Doing the reefer reporters?
Ron, just, I hope you've paid attention to this. When we asked you to come on and just read the news.
Just read the news. Ron's training is coming.
Well, we already know he knows how to run StreamYard.
Yeah, that's right.
So there you go. Alrighty. Well, what do you think? Time to bring in our guests?
Absolutely.
I think so. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. It's quite a lot going on in this man's life.
That's right. Exactly. Well, at this time, I'd like to introduce our guest, who I said has been providing patients with education and knowledge and so much more. We'd like to welcome Chris Enns to the Pace Radio Show. Welcome aboard, Chris. How are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Kim, Mal, and Cindy. Glad to be here.
We're welcome.
Glad to have you on, Chris. Really happy to have you on. I'm glad we were able to connect. I've been following you for many years and what you guys have got going on down there with Pharmacist and so much more, and I'm excited to get into it with you tonight.
I'm sure we'll get on to a lot of topics. We'll have to keep it at some point.
Oh yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, normally what we do here is, and Chris, what we do is I hand the reins over to Kim to get things going as far as the questions, and I follow in and jump in every once in a while and ask a few questions myself, and we go from there. However the conversation goes and where it leads to, we never know until it happens. Yep.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got 3 segments, and we usually have an idea, what each segment's going to be about, and so I'll let Kim take the reins from here and get the questions going.
Thanks so much. I'll appreciate that. Chris, as I said, I've followed you for quite some time here in the cannabis community and what you've got going on. You're down there in good old Nova Scotia, the same province where joint host Cindy Howell resides. You guys aren't that far apart down there on the East Coast. But you're not originally from there. You're originally from Toronto or Ontario, right? Windsor or something?
Yeah, from southwestern, just outside of London in a rural area.
Right. So originally an Ontario boy, landed up in Nova Scotia, Scotia Nova, and you got some big stuff going on there. Of course, you have a dispensary. It's called Pharmacist. But before we get into all of that and everything going on in your court cases, I want to give an opportunity for our listeners out there that may not be aware of who you are to get to know Chris Enns first. Who exactly are you? How did you get involved in cannabis? You tell us a bit about background, patient story, if you will, or what drew you to the cannabis business and got you into doing this?
Sure. Well, I actually made the leap from Ontario to Nova Scotia to go to Dalhousie University because their medical school was supposedly, among one of the top ones in the country. And since I was a little kid, going to medical school had been the ultimate goal. So I headed out here to Nova Scotia, and it was a gradual process, but more towards especially the second part of my final year in university. I really started to become disenchanted with my education. I had really started to look at a lot of the medical journals around cannabinoids and all different health situations, but specifically with respect to cannabinoids and cancer. And what originally got me on that train was the old YouTube video from Rick Simpson there, Run from the Cure. And I was absolutely determined, where I was studying immunology in university at the time, to get into the medical journals and prove this Rick Simpson guy to be a bunch of BS. I was certain he must be a snake oil salesman. So, despite the fact that I enjoyed cannabis, there was no way in heck that this thing's helping with cancer. I mean, sure, maybe some symptom management, but this isn't attacking cancer cells. Come on. And so I started diving into the medical journals that were the same journals we're using in class. And sure enough, there's all kinds of studies that were really backing up what Rick was saying. Maybe not in a comprehensive, trials of multiple patients, double blind at that time, but the pathways in which cannabinoids were working their magic on cancer cells were really starting to be understood. And there was a lot of mice models already that had clearly happened, showing the benefit of cannabinoids in cancer. And so I was determined to try to, share this data with my professors and ultimately ask the question, why has the cannabinoid receptor system been completely left out of every textbook in a 4-year education in immunology? And it was really a struggle to have any meaningful dialogues, and combined with some other issues at the time, I ended up in my very last week of university just deciding not to go to my final set of exams. And I dropped out, determined that I was going to figure out something to do with cannabis. That's for sure. Something to do with helping medical patients, whether that meant growing, whether that meant starting a dispensary. I had already started trying to convince my roommates to form a not-for-profit society with me to open one of these compassion clubs that I was hearing about out in BC, Ted Smith and Dana Larson specifically. They were just laughing at me when I'd sign that paperwork. You're nuts. And it was ultimately in meeting my ex-wife and my business partner, Sherry Reeve, Jess James, who really inspired me to take that step further and actually open the store. Together at first we opened a not-for-profit society where there was a few other members that initially formed the board, and for about a year and a half, we had a storefront. It was the first storefront in Atlantic Canada, I believe, that was specifically serving medically licensed patients. And that started up in 2012 after a few years of running it kind of a little bit more disorganized, but as like a delivery service on and off, and really focused more on the activism side of things. And then formally in 2012, we actually opened the first storefront in a little small community called Porter's Lake. It was about a half hour outside of Halifax. But it was clear from day one that the demand for the service was enormous. There was people driving from all over Nova Scotia, whether it be Cape Breton and even New Brunswick. We would have customers show up having said that they just made the drive, and so that was inspiring. It really became necessary to open the storefront because we had just become overwhelmed with what was going on around us, and the demand was so great. Really, there was no other option. But really, before we even opened the storefront, and to step back a minute, when those studies in university kind of affirmed what Rick Simpson was saying, and what some of his patients that were in that movie, who I actually had the chance to meet firsthand when he brought them up to Dalhousie and did a talk right at the university. I had a chance to dialogue with them, and I understood that these were real people that had real experiences, and I was determined to perhaps replicate that experience and to develop some of these stories firsthand. So we started producing cannabis under Health Canada licenses for Jess and for myself, and I guess it wasn't for myself at first. It was for two patients that I became licensed to grow for. And then we ultimately used the excess production from that to make oils that we were able to provide free of charge to cancer patients.
And you still do that, correct? You still provide oils for cancer patients.
Yeah, that's really been the mission objective from day one, is that we're able to provide the cannabis oil free of charge to any cancer patient that really reaches out to us and makes that request.
Amazing.
I think the point of the whole point of doing that is that I strongly believe that there's a dose-dependent relationship between how much cannabis oil one is able to consume and get their blood concentration of THC and CBD and all those other great cannabinoids up, and the rate at which it seems to put the brakes on a lot of tumors, and in some situations start to knock them back like peeling the layers of an onion away. It's certainly not some cure-all that works for every individual, and there was an individual named John Cook that had really, I think, one of the first dispensaries in Nova Scotia. He operated a delivery service called the Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada, the East Coast division, and he was a really big inspiration for me. And I used to get in debates with him early on, where I had just talked to Rick, and I was convinced that cannabis was an absolute cure-all, and anyone that consumed that gram a day for 60 days was definitely going to get cured of cancer, and anyone that told me otherwise, well, they were a bloody liar. And this was the position I would take with John, and John would kind of laugh at me and provide a more tempered response, and we would have some heated discussions, and the point he was trying to make to me that I now take with a great deal of value and wasn't able to at the time was that, listen, I've had a lot of experience, and I've worked with a lot of cancer patients myself, and it doesn't work for everyone, and it doesn't necessarily absolutely stop the growth of the cancer, and it doesn't necessarily reverse it for everyone. But I mean, at minimum, it certainly provides symptom benefit, absolute minimum. And then absolutely. For everyone, there seems to be different levels where some people it actually does put the brakes on and send this thing in reverse at high enough doses. And we've seen those results, and they're the exciting results. That get your adrenaline pumping and get you cheering and whatnot when you hear those results. But I think we have to take as much joy in the hope that it's slowing things down and giving some people some serious time and serious quality of life. And if you're standing with a price tag behind that dose-dependent relationship, trying to convince a patient to consume more and more medicine on the basis that you believe that more is better, then there's always going to be that tick in their brain. Well, geez, this guy's making a certain amount for every little bit that I consume, so of course he's going to be encouraging me to consume more and more. And I don't want there to be barriers when I'm having those conversations with cancer patients between them consuming that higher dose and there being a cost barrier. I mean, I think when we look at prices where they've come today, there's absolutely no reason why any cancer patient should be subject to a cost limitation on accessing cannabis. I mean, where licensed producers are throwing it away at this point. They're so oversaturated with product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I gotta say that's what drew me to you in the very beginning, way back when I first found out about you on the East Coast, and that's what drew me to you was the compassionate pricing. There's so many people that I know in this industry. No disrespect to anybody out there, but a large percentage of people that get into dispensary or to sales, the price points that they're using, they're get-rich-quick schemes. It's people walking around, being able to go out and buying Gucci and, drive Mercedes. because they're doing it on the backs of patients. Now I understand everybody needs to make a living, and I don't discount that. Everybody has to make a living. We're all doing these things, and people that do these things should get paid for their time. But the question is, how much should you get paid for your time when the person paying you for your time is looking at, possibly end of life and, selling everything they own just so that they can survive? I don't find price points of medicinal use cannabis to be in line with the product. It's a different story if you're talking about rec. Do what you want. When it comes to that, liquor stores do, everybody does. But patient medicine, that shouldn't come with the high sticker price tags that we see in most brick and mortar stores, whether it be gray market or legal.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain derivatives that we're starting to see. We're even among the legal retailers are operating under Health Canada licensing, whether you're talking about the NSLC in Nova Scotia or the different private stores in Ontario. I think we are seeing prices start to fall quite substantially, especially for flower. But there seems to be a disconnect between products that truly do have that medical value in the sense that no one is chasing that product for a recreational high. And by that, I'm talking about like 1-to-1 tinctures or capsules that are, full spectrum CBD tincture. And the price points on these products are still at ridiculous margins. And their margins were, even if you knock off that 15% or that 10% excise tax and 15% HST, and even still compared to the legacy market, they're out of line. So there's a lot of correction to happen there. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. The prices have to come in line. I mean, that's what pisses me off most about legalization, I think. I mean, legalization, we got here on the backs of patients, right? We wouldn't have legalization today if it wasn't for the thousands of patients in this country fighting for our right to grow, for our right to extract, and for our right to purchase quality products without impediment and have that available. And that's how we got here today. And now patients are paying the price for that in the legal world with exorbitant prices.
For me, I think the most painful aspect of the legislation for patients has got to be the excise tax being applied to them equal to the recreational market. And I mean both like your HST or your GST, and on top of that, this roughly 10% excise tax is applied to. So as a patient with a prescription, you're paying at minimum a 25% tax, and it's putting you into a class that differentiates you from an opiate user or a benzodiazepine user, because even if they're not on a pharmacare plan, they're still not paying HST for any of those prescriptions. But we're still treating medical cannabis as something that's a little bit dirty. It's not technically a prescription, even though it requires a medical document, which every single provincial medical body has said is akin to they use the word akin or alike to a prescription. But just because they use that slight language twist, and because it's not a pharmacist that distributes the medicine to you, well, now sales tax is applicable to it, despite it being prescribed. And I think that is one of the most reprehensible elements of the system, and really needs to be brought under challenge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to go back to something you were telling us about your story in the beginning there. So, I mean, you've been in medical school. You almost graduated. All you got to do is go back and write a final exam, and you would have graduated. You were studying immunology, and I mean, isn't that like almost perfect for getting into cannabinoid therapy? Studying immunology and how our bodies work. It's was it meant to be, Chris? I guess that's where I'm going.
Well, it is somewhat sad because it's over 10 years now since I withdrew from my studies, and I've lost all chances to use those credits or renew that course of study. I'd have to start from square one. But the past 2 years, there's been this growing energy and desire to even potentially go back to law school one day. But I ultimately need my undergrad to do that. So it's, I thought I was being quite an activist at the time doing what I did. But sometimes I look back and think, geez, 2 weeks of exams after 4 years of study, maybe I should have just done it.
You should have done the exams, Chris. You absolutely should have went back and done the exams. Absolutely. I agree with you on that one. I mean, even if you don't wind up in the field, 4 years of study, write the exams for sure. But, I look at life as a series of things that are meant to be. Sometimes we don't do things and we kick ourselves for a while, but in the end, you find out there was a reason for that. And, maybe that was your reason for going to medical school was in preparation for meeting Rick Simpson.
Yeah, just an undergrad, to be clear. I was never in medical school, just doing my pre-med per se.
But studying immunology.
Yeah, specializing in immunology, or doing my honors in immunology there. But
awesome.
Yeah, I never would have met Rick Simpson had it not been for the move to Nova Scotia. And it was ultimately at towards the end of I think in the second semester of my fourth year when he came up and did that big talk, and that was definitely a fork in the road for me for sure. I pretty much just didn't go to school didn't go to my classes for 3 or 4 days after that talk. I was just like grinding into the studies and trying to find a basis to validate what he had said, and it was quite an emotional time for me for sure.
Yeah. So you got caught up in the government scheme, then the same thing the government tried to do. We have to disprove this. We have to prove that it's bad and that they're all lying. And then there you were going, holy shit, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, and it still hits me today, is that they knew then that there was more cannabinoid receptors in the brain than every other neurotransmitter combined. And yet not in a single textbook, not a single mention in 4 years of an entire receptor system. I mean, now there's, all kinds of classes and teaching and wonderful labs doing wonderful work at Dal on cannabinoid research. But at the time, it was quite taboo.
Yeah, but Chris, I know those courses are being taught in the universities and stuff. But are they a requirement for a doctor to take, or is that would be an added course that they would take as an option?
The last time I spoke to a doctor about this topic was about 5 years ago, so my information was only current at that time. But they, having only graduated a couple years before, said they only had about a day, maybe 2 days total of any kind of meaningful look at cannabis. So
yeah. Well, because
it's a blurb.
Even making it available, that's a step. That's better than having nothing at all, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in Nova Scotia, in the same part of in the same province as Cindy. How far apart are you guys? I'm not familiar with Nova Scotia, so Ontario is
Halifax
enormous,
is only
right?
it's only a 40-minute drive. I hop in the car. I was up there today doing errands. I only got back before my earlier show. So, pharmacists. Years ago when I first started learning about cannabis, it was where I went. It was where everybody went. It was a friendly place that offered a lounge. Along with education. I learned a lot and met a lot of people.
Yeah. So, Nova Scotia is much smaller than Ontario, right? I'm used to traveling across Ontario, and it can take you a day.
Literally 24 hours minimum to get across Ontario. Yeah, I know, it's huge.
Yeah.
We're bigger than some countries. There's no doubt about that. Well,
it's huge here. So when you talk about just on the other side of the province in a place like Nova Scotia, it's like, oh well, that's not too bad then.
No, east coast to west coast of Nova Scotia is about an hour and 15 minutes. Now the north to south is a much larger drive. So if you were to go from the tip of Cape Breton all the way down to Yarmouth, it's a 9 or 10 hour drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a,
Right on. Right on. So you guys are
Kim, it's a shorter distance than you to drive to Toronto.
It is. To go from one end to the other. It is. Isn't that how horrible is that?
All right, everybody. It's break time.
All right, we're going to break. All right, when we come back, I want to get into the opening of Pharmacist, and we're going to dive into Pharmacist and everything that Pharmacist had to offer, and that will take us to your court cases. And we're going to talk more about with Chris when we come back.
That's right. Off we go. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with our guest, Chris Enns of Pharmacist. This is the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The Pace Radio Network is the place to be for all your information from the world of psychedelics, because we are pleased to bring our listeners 2 shows focusing on psychedelic therapy in the world of natural medicine. First up, we have Open Your Eye, which airs on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. Open Your Eye is a 90-minute video podcast with Kim Cooper and Cindy Howell interviewing patients and professionals in the space. Patient stories, facilitators, lawyers, and others discuss their journeys and endeavors involving psychedelic medicine. But they're not done, because Kim and Cindy are back on alternate Tuesdays at 7 p.m. with psychedelic reporters as they bring along the show's mascot, Bufo, aka the Colorado Mud Toad, who is scouring the news wires for all the latest in psychedelic news. He then passes it on to Kim and Cindy to cover in this 60-minute video news podcast. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Psychedelic Tuesdays right here on the Pace Radio Network, found at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hey, welcome back, and you're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net, and we are also being heard in not only North America, but we're also heard in the UK, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Russia, just to name a few other countries. Tonight on the program, we're joined by our guest, Chris Enns of Harvest Assist, and my joint host, Kim Cooper of No Sir, as well as joint host, filling in, learning the ropes, Cindy Howell. How you guys doing?
Hi, how you doing?
Good. We talked about a bunch of stuff prior to how things got started. Chris got started on things, and where are we going to now? After, just before I jump in here, I got to jump in one more last time. I got some comments to read to you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, here we go. Ron says, "You guys are too funny." Something tells me that comment had to do with the just reading the news.
Ron, I promise.
and Ron also sends a message to you, Chris. He says, "Hi, Chris. Mad love and respect for you for all you've done and continue to do in the community, cannabis community for patients."
Oh, right on. Thanks, Ron.
There you go. Some feedback from Ron. So back over to you, Kim. Where are we going?
We're going to talk about Pharmacist. Chris let us know that he finally opened a brick and mortar dispensary back in 2012 when he saw the need for patients. Like that in 2012, I want to expand on that because that, of course, leads into, raids and issues with the police and everything else, which leads up to the court case that you've recently had. So let's get into Pharmacist. There was definitely a need back then, and that was groundbreaking stuff that you guys were doing and offering compassionate prices for patients. As we touched on, a lot of people weren't doing that. A lot of people were, hey, I got to make my money. And you came at it from a different aspect.
Yeah, one of the individuals that really inspired me on day one for the pricing model, and to be clear, it was the pricing model we followed at the beginning with the Halifax Compassionate Club, which kind of morphed into Pharmacists, and it's sort of shifted into a different model outside of the not-for-profit society. But at the beginning, when we were society and the Halifax Compassionate Club that I formed with my ex-wife Jess James there and a few members, we really took on a model that Randy Kane had inspired. I went out to visit Randy after learning about a lot of his work and his business Hempies there, and without having anything behind me at the time, I had no name, no stories to myself at the time, and he took me right into his home, into his business. He showed me the nuts and bolts of the whole bloody operation as someone just off the street. I couldn't believe it. If I was a police officer, he would have just given me everything. It was incredible, to be quite frank. And even while we were driving around and he was showing me things, there would be growers calling him on the phone, and he would be asking if they understood and his pricing model, and they would confirm, and then he would come in, and what he would just simply do is put $1 a gram on every product. So it was really more just a dispensing fee per se. It wasn't about a margin markup that was generating some big income. And when he showed me his condo and the life he was living and the vehicle he's driving, he showed me that I'm not living poor. I think by any standards of other nations, I'm living quite well. But I'm not living wealthily, and I'm living relatively simply. And through doing that, we can really deliver a model to the patients that's much more affordable than they're seeing elsewhere. And so when I came back to Nova Scotia, I took that with me and tried to implement that by creating a system wherein growers could consign product to the society, and then we would put $1 a gram onto whatever they consigned it to us for, and then make it available to the patients at that price. And it was quite successful. Where it started to turn, I guess I would say, and I don't want to say it did turn, but towards the end, and I would, when I say the end, I mean towards the time when we first got rated. Some growers would want to put the products on the menu at a substantially higher price, knowing that certainly they had a product that was separating itself from the herd, and so say they would consign it to us at $7 or $8, and I think $7 is the highest things ever went at that, or maybe $7.50 that they would consign it, and then we put the dollar on, and now we're up to $8.50, where before, for the first year, maybe there was nothing over $6, but those things at $8.50 would go just as fast, if not faster, and there'd be all this demand and hype around it, and so I became a little bit more disgruntled at that time when I realized that perhaps this wasn't a model that was the best or sustainable, and then after the first rate, there was a requirement for looking at things differently, but that's how it started, and that was the inspiration for.
Legal fees are now involved, and that puts a whole new light on everything, doesn't it?
Well, above and beyond that, we actually started, paying staff and remitting, to the CRA staff, payroll remittances and all those things. So, these things certainly make it impossible to survive on a 10% gross margin.
So you were dealing with actually paying income tax and stuff like that through the government from your employees and unemployment and things like that. Is it like a regular business, legal business?
Well, I've been very careful and very strict about payroll remittances. Mm-hmm. We're operating on pretty much a break even. Outside of wages, we're operating on a pretty much break even situation. So the corporate income tax doesn't come into play so much, and where we really find ourselves in hot water, and perhaps we can dive into this later or whatever, is around the HST issue, because I've refused to collect HST from medically licensed patients, and I've refused to remit it. And as a result, I've found myself now heading into tax court and having to actually retain tax litigation lawyers, and that, I tell you, that's a world much worse than criminal court.
And right now,
it is, isn't it? I was going to say, that's scary shit, man.
Yeah, and right now,
that's scary.
Right now in the news, there are some things coming out about some organizations or councils or whatever here in Canada that are starting to lobby the government about reducing the taxes on the cannabis. Now, I like to see all the tax removed off cannabis, but unfortunately, we've been, as patients, it's been on there since day one.
Yeah. I paid a lot of tax on my cannabis via other sources, right?
So it's great when you can do that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a big Section 7 issue at play.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Section 7.
Well, I mean, ultimately, if we have a right to security of the person, and we have a medical license that's saying, you are entitled to 5 grams of cannabis a day. I shouldn't use that word entitled, that you're authorized to 5 grams of cannabis per day. This is the threshold at which, between your discussions with your doctor and your doctor's understanding of the literature that does exist, that this is the threshold dose at which you may find relief for your symptoms or for your condition. And if you're on a limited income and you've got $200 left at the end of the month to spend on cannabis, and you can either spend that $200 on 1 ounce of cannabis, or you can spend that $200 on an ounce of cannabis plus 7 grams because you didn't pay HST on it, and instead you bought the exact same strain from a legacy market producer that didn't charge HST, just using a reasonable hypothetical, then you're clearly able to establish your security of the person more with that extra 7 grams, because you're actually able to get the medicine that you need. And I don't see how, if we bring that argument, properly framed with the right evidence, that it can't succeed. And every lawyer that I've tried to talk to about this has told me that it won't succeed. To give up, that this is a lobby the government issue, a political issue, and that this isn't a judicial issue that can be won. But to me, the path seems clear, and I think it's just a matter of time getting those arguments before the court. I gosh knows they probably won't be successful. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I think it has to be done, and it really hasn't been properly done in that framework. I think when the British Columbia Compassion Club Society was helping with a HST or a GST challenge with regards to medical cannabis, something called HEDGES, HEDGES, and it's really kind of the overarching decision from 2014 that confirms that certainly sales tax applies even to medical cannabis. Well, the lawyers made some submissions under Section 7. They weren't really the gist of the argument, and they weren't, I'm not sure, properly framed or submitted, to the point where in the final decision there's no reference to it whatsoever. It's not even brought up, in a point or anywhere. So it's never actually been addressed by the courts, the right of patients to cannabis without this special sales tax being applied to this medicine only.
I know that Ted Smith, he dealt with the tax end of things as well. There was several years ago, and he ended up having to pay some money out. In his situation.
Yeah.
But
I think
that
they also
doesn't
made an
mean
agreement
that
to start charging. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the next person, arguments change, all that stuff. And, just like one time, cannabis was illegal, now it's legal. So arguments and positions on things can change. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it just takes the somebody stepping up and doing a first step like Chris is thinking should be done. And, I think that would be, worthwhile.
Yeah, there's only one way to find it, and that's take it to court based on that argument. And that would settle the debate on whether or not it would work one way or another.
My lawyer goes,
So
you know how much John Conroy got paid for Allard? He's like, these things cost a lot of money. And I was no, I won't be paying that. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was, Allard was, wow, that was a lot of money. And then, Smith after that, that was another ton of money.
Yeah.
Every step of the way we've gone to, either provincial Supreme or national Supreme Court to get these verdicts advancing cannabis law in this country. And it's all come on the backs of patients going to court. And all, as you say, those court challenges, wow. I mean, that was a shit ton of money for those cases.
And in the end, we've got we're at, and patients can grow, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, things have fees, and Chris knows.
Well, I want to jump into your raids at the shop there,
okay.
Chris.
We'll get into the other end.
I'm looking at the time, and I want to make sure we get these court cases in, which is the primary reason I wanted you on. But your story is just so fascinating. I can get caught up in multiple parts of it very easily. So jumping to your court cases for a second, your first raid, how long were you open? You opened the doors in 2012. How long were you operating before the cops showed up?
Just shy of a year.
Just shy of a year. And that was your first raid. And they came in and they cleaned you out, and did they arrest you?
Yeah, they came to with my house and the store. Full searches, arrested me, but released me on the spot that time. There was no going to jail or taking me downtown, just show up at court in this day. And then a month later, they arrested Jess as well, deciding that she was a part of things as well. And then in about a year after that, I mean, we were open, close, kind of in this spotty fashion, trying to get our bearings again. And then a year later, we did a little bit of corporate reorganization and moved into Halifax and opened a storefront right in Halifax, and faced a raid a few months after opening in 2014 there. And that was a really big raid because they also raided my warehouse, like my Legal Health Canada production site, which was under the plant numbers, under the storage numbers and everything. And they knew they had licenses there, but they decided that the grow must be supplying the store. And And so it was a huge raid. They came into the back of my house with machine guns on the back of pickup trucks. Like, it was heavy duty, like treating me like a big gangster. So that was my first, I did some jail time there, or like, the overnight, and then going into the bail hearing. And then a year after that, we had another, we reopened the store right away, of course. But a year later, we had year and a half later, we had another raid in 2015. So we were just in court, like, constantly for a couple of years, using a lot of John Turmel's tactics, to delay proceedings, to put some roadblocks in the way, to try to scare or shake off the Crown. But it wasn't working. They were bound. They were going to take us down. So after I actually went to Ottawa and watched the Smith decision, and watched Kirk perform before the Supreme Court of Canada, I was determined that, wow, I wanted this guy as a lawyer. And he was gracious enough to actually retain us for a really reasonable price structure. And for the next couple of years, really provided an excellent representation. And in 2017, November 2017, got all of those charges withdrawn. Not even stayed, it was just a total withdrawal of everything, and all the cash that was seized and all the raids was ordered returned to us. And we started hearings to actually get the plants, like that were part of our Health Canada license, and the stored cannabis. We've started proceedings to get that all compensated, and those proceedings are still ongoing to this day. And they're looking at, it's still going to be another 2 years, and even the lowest level of court before there's a decision on that.
Really?
That's wild. That's a whole show in itself. I won't get into that.
Well, I do have a comment on that. The police, they have, I don't know the size of your plants that they took or anything like that, but your legal garden, I haven't got a clue on the size of anything. But, as we see in the paper daily, well, not daily, but on the reports of these big raids, is they're talking $1,000 a plant.
Yeah, that's the base price when
that's
they
the
raid
base
somebody
price.
And they say, oh, there's this much money was involved in this garden. That's their price. It's $1,000 per plant.
Yeah.
So if they've got 10 plants, that's $10,000 raid. Are they going to compensate you at the same base price?
So if you want to feel yourself shake with a little anger, listen to what they're doing. They're pursuing these really advanced civil arguments called ex turpi causa. It's a Latin term which means that if we can throw enough shade on you to prove that you have quote unquote dirty hands on a balance of probabilities, then you're not entitled to compensation from the state, because there's an overarching public policy that individuals who are acting contrary to good morals should never receive civil compensation when they're wronged, even if they're wronged.
What?
What?
No fucking way. I apologize, but
over 15 days of court. 15 full days of court were spent on that.
Wow.
Oh my.
Wow.
And,
so they're saying
Jack Lloyd graciously represented us on the start of that, and graciously helped us, and even he's throwing his arms in the air on it at this point. Like, it is just it's an.
So are they trying to say that the dispensary end of things, which charges got thrown out and all that, was something that was a negative in order to allow them to come up with this?
Yeah, so not only has the judge allowed them to use every piece of evidence that was seized during those raids, which we never had a chance to, prove were unconstitutional because they just dropped the charges. But despite that, all the evidence seized has been used in court, brought in court. All the experts used, all the police that were involved have been put on the stand and been able to tell about the evidence. And then in addition to that, they've gone from like 2009 right to the present day and pulled every last micro thing from Facebook, from social media, from YouTube, videos of speeches we've done in New Brunswick at Mount Allison University, and put all of this into evidence and submitted it before the judge to show that, we're cannabis activists, actively flaunting the law, flagrantly disregarding the regulatory situation. And as such, even if we're good enough at law to get our charges dropped, we should absolutely not be able to get anything back and be compensated.
You're being you're being victimized.
Absolutely.
Well, really what they've done is they've had a second trial with a lower standard of proof, a burden of probabilities instead of reasonable and beyond a reasonable doubt, and in doing so, been allowed to put all of this dirt. I'll call it dirt. It's not dirt to me. I'm fine with it, but into the public domain, things that are private, business records, you name it. These aren't things that have any right to be in the public domain unless one chooses them to be. And here they've said, well, we're going to short the system, and we found a way to do it anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. That's crazy. So they're basically shaming you. The bottom line is they're shaming you. They're saying, hey, this guy, we believe he's a bad person. So even though we took his stuff wrongfully, we don't think we should have to pay him for that because
there's an 87 page decision to that extent, that 87 pages of bashing us. Like it's already been put by a judge. I won't tell you how to find it, but
Oh my God. That's insane. This is Canada, right? I gotta go look out the window. Do I have snow? Yeah, we got some snow. This is Canada, right?
Of course you got snow.
Bless you.
So I'm giving the judge a little taste of his own medicine, though, because after he gave that 87-page decision, I turned around and launched Section 8 challenges to each of those 6 search warrants. The 6 raids that happened between 2013 and 2015, I've now launched individual search warrant challenges to every single one of them. So every police officer that was ever involved in any one of those raids is going to be put on the stand. They're booking like 12 days of court time just to go back.
Wow.
Explain Section 8. What does that entail?
Yeah, I should start there. Section 8 of the Charter is what protects us against unreasonable search and seizure.
Yeah.
So it, there's all kinds of court decisions that build a kind of foundation around all the rules and procedure and carefulness that police have to follow before they go into an area that has a reasonable expectation of privacy. And one of the, to boil it down into one sentence, they have to have put forward some sort of credible evidence that a reasonable person looking at would be able to form the belief that, there's something illegal going on here, and there's going to be evidence of it found if I give this warrant. If you can't meet that threshold, then you can't get the warrant. And when you challenge a warrant as part of your court defense, what you're doing is showing to a judge that I don't know what the police were thinking, I don't know what the justice of the peace was thinking, but this doesn't meet the standard. Like there's not enough here. There's no meat on the bones. And a judge either looks at the evidence and he's not substituting himself for the justice of the peace, but he's just looking and saying, is there anything here that I could grab onto to believe that there's a crime going down and there's evidence of the crime? And if there's nothing for him to grab onto, well, it's an unreasonable search and seizure. And then from there, there's still a second question for the judge. Am I going to exclude the evidence from the trial just because the search was unreasonable? And you would think that, evidence would always be excluded when a search was unreasonable, but there's, things that have to be weighed. Of a right to protest there, and then finally, how serious is the public's interest in this trial going forward, regardless of the breach. And after looking at all the judge kind of does a weighing and then either throws it out or says, nope, we're going to trial. And in the case of my most recent charges, or I shouldn't say my most recent charges, my most recent court proceeding. The judge decided to throw out the evidence, and that was for my 2019 raid. So,
Well,
2019 raid got tossed on a Section 8. That's as soon as I seen that, I knew you were going to court that day, and I was sitting on the edge of my seat, and then I saw the post. We won, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. Finally, some success after this long road that you've been on, because it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, that was I was pretty excited to have that happen. That's
why don't we jump? Well, why don't we go to a break, being it's top of the hour, and then we'll dig into all that. As far as
sounds good. We'll come back and we're going to talk about the charges. The next up, what's next for Chris, and I want to dive in a little bit more about your shop that you had, Pharmacist, the brick and mortar shop, because you were so much more than just a dispensary. You also had consumption spaces and education time, and it was just a friendly space. So I want to dive into that and more in the final 30 minutes.
Sounds good. Off to break we go. When we return, we'll continue our interview with our guest, Chris Enns of Pharmacist. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP. The Pace Radio Network is the place to be for all your information from the world of psychedelics, because we are pleased to bring our listeners 2 shows focusing on psychedelic therapy in the world of natural medicine. First up, we have Open Your Eye, which airs on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. Open Your Eye is a 90-minute video podcast with Kim Cooper and Cindy Howell interviewing patients and professionals in the space. Patient stories, facilitators, lawyers, and others discuss their journeys and endeavors involving psychedelic medicine. But they're not done, because Kim and Cindy are back on alternate Tuesdays at 7 p.m. with psychedelic reporters as they bring along the show's mascot, Bufo, aka the Colorado Mud Toad, who is scouring the news wires for all the latest in psychedelic news. He then passes it on to Kim and Cindy to cover in this 60-minute video news podcast. So tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Psychedelic Tuesdays right here on the Pace Radio Network, found at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. We're being broadcasted live here at paceradio.net. And if you can't catch the live shows, don't forget you can always catch us afterwards by going to our website found at paceradioshow.com. Tonight on the program we're joined by our guest Chris Enns, a pharmacist, plus my joint host Kim Cooper, and a co-joint host Cindy Howell is with us here as well. Cindy and Kim, before we bring Chris back in, during that commercial break, people would have heard the new promo for your new show, your Psychedelic Reporters, as well as Open Your Eye. One question to you on that. How did the debut go for your Psychedelic Reporters?
Fantastic.
Great. I'm really pleased with the numbers of live listeners that we had. I was actually blown away a little bit by the live listeners that we had. We didn't do a whole lot of advertising for the debut show because I'm a little bit nervous on debut shows. I don't advertise them so much because I'm not sure how it's going to go. So,
you know how the feeling, right?
Yeah. So I didn't put any effort into advertising it, and I was quite blown away by the amount of live listeners that we had across the 3 platforms. And I went in and I checked at 7 o'clock tonight, which would have been a full 24 hours after show. And I mean, complete mind pop on the amount of replays we've had. We're approaching 300 mark on replays in the first 24 hours of our debut show. So fantastic numbers.
Good.
Exciting.
Way to go. There you go. Nowhere to go but up.
That's right.
That's right. And the news is a way of educating people. Let them know what's going on.
Yep. Absolutely. So really pleased. Really pleased with how it went. From tech to talking, it was pretty good. A couple of glitches here and there. We'll iron them out as we go. Yeah. We're learning as we go here on the network, especially launching new programs on new systems with new tech. A couple of minor glitches, but nothing interfered with the show at all, and it went very well.
With the new operating system that actually has updates that all of a sudden, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Now we're learning. Now we're learning new things on StreamYard. So. Yeah, never changes. Alrighty, well, let's swing things back around and get back to our guests and where you want to bring the conversation to now, Kim?
I want to talk to Chris. Let's finish off with the legal, and then I want to get into everything that Pharmacist had to offer and still does have to offer on certain cases, certain spectrum of it, where he's at now. But let's finish off with the cases. So you've won your most recent challenge, and case dismissed, charges withdrawn. That's even better than case dismissed. That's way better than stayed, because stayed, it still stays on your record. So, charges withdrawn, that's sweet. For sure. But your troubles aren't over, right? They don't want to pay you for the plants, but that's not the only challenge that you've got going.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of raids in my past. So there's also a charge from 2017 when I was pulled over, and cannabis was found in the vehicle. As 5 pounds of cannabis, I believe, was found along with some cash. And so there's still a jury trial for that in September of 2022. And then in 2020, in January, I think it was the day after New Year's Day, we had another raid as well, and that's going to a jury trial in March of 2022 of next year. But there's a search warrant challenge to that happening at the end of this month. And really, I'm subject to a publication ban on that whole proceeding, so I can't really speak too much to it. But I mean, there's a lot of crossover of issues, and so I'm hopeful to quickly dispense with that raid as well. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, all of that. If we're not successful,
without speaking the specifics about it, can you just let us know? Is it this win that you've just had last week? Does that reflect at all on other cases? Does that open the door?
Yeah, exactly.
For,
so in 2019,
other cases.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, exactly. That was what happened in 2019 was that there was really no surveillance done whatsoever. They just took your classic weed maps listing and the fact that we had a website and combined that with 5 minutes of observations where they saw 7 people go into the store. That's it. That's all they observed was 7 people go into the store. And from that, with a weed maps listing and a pharmacist website, that was, in their eyes, enough to get a search warrant. And the judge was like, come on, anyone can make a weed maps listing and a website. You got to do a little bit more corroboration than that. So, I mean, it's not some big exciting win where these great leaps are made in law. It's more just shaking the police's head and being like, come on, do some work to get these things. You can't just
7 people going in,
so we can automatically read.
7 people isn't a pile of people.
Right.
It's just, you got some friends that come over. You can have 7 people easily.
Yeah.
Well, and in the warrant, they didn't even say that they observed a sign that said pharmacists or anything. So, I mean, for all the judge reading the warrant knew, they saw 7 people go into a restaurant. Financial institution.
Exactly.
And what's hilarious is the paragraph below, the police even said that there was 7 different businesses associated with that address when they do their, background check. And one of them was a convenience store, and one of them was a restaurant, and one of them was a LGBTQ positive bar. And so it was like, how do you know that you're rating pharmacists and not rating one of these other businesses, based on what you put in the warrant?
If you break it down, that's 1 person per business.
Yeah, really.
There was no work on my part where I'm kind of creating some sort of deceptive matrix of business practices or signage where I'm, pulling off a fast one. It was just simply a shoddy investigation. So.
Wow.
And then they did an equally shoddy investigation for 2020. So, yeah.
So
2020 falls like dominoes.
Now you said these charges, this next set is from 2017. You'll be heard in 2022. 5 years. Is there's a longevity thing there as far as before cases got to be heard before they get tossed out because they took too long? Are you getting anywhere near that?
Speedy trial.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could say, I mean, I've definitely there's certainly been a lot of institutional delay. Okay. COVID played a role in that. But, I've also brought a pretty fulsome defense so far in that case. And, I'm obviously still here and on my way to trial. That's pretty much all I can say to that.
Right,
but I think there was somewhere in the line of 15 pre-trial applications.
And like you say, if you're challenging things, it's not as if they've delayed things. You're challenging things. And
there's a lot of challenges.
Obviously your last challenge was very effective. You got your charges withdrawn, right?
Yeah, that 2017 charge is a tough one. It's been a difficult defense, and I've got to put a lot of gratefulness towards Jack Lloyd, who continues to represent me on that case. He's been patient both with me and and with the Crown in that respect, especially with me. We've certainly butted heads at times with regards to the direction the defense go, but he's an amazing lawyer, and I'm grateful that he's still at the helm of that. So. Yeah.
Good.
Amazing lawyer and an amazing person. Jack Lloyd is one of my favorite human beings. His patience is, wow. I can speak to that on a personal level as well. I'm not the easiest person to get along with at times, and Jack and I have never had a conflict, and he's just great. He handled me going through my withdrawals and ups and downs when I was getting off the prescribed fentanyl from the doctor. At times I was a bloody lunatic at times. And he handled it with grace and style. Smile and wave. What a great guy he is. Yeah, for sure. Good lawyer too. Great lawyer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing lawyer, yeah.
Always good days with Jack.
For sure. Great guy. I'm glad to hear that you've got such wonderful representation with Jack Lloyd Mann. Really good guy for sure. Spent a lot of time working with him at Normal Canada. So you've still got some challenges ahead. A couple of cases in the works, two of them coming up next year. But you're still plugging away. Through all of this, we're hearing, I got raided in this year. And then they came back and then they raided me again. And then they came back and then they raided me again. Well, they're only raiding you because you keep opening, right? Because you're there for patience.
Yeah.
It's your dedication to patience. That's what attracted me most to following you. It's like, this guy's not going to quit. This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, Ted Smith really gave me that inspiration when I was following his history back in the early 2000s and mid 2000s. They gave up a little bit quicker on him, but he gave me the inspiration to just keep reopening. Whatever they do, just reopen.
Yeah. And here you are now. I want to talk a little bit now about pharmacists. Time's ticking away. I see that we're long-winded, aren't we? We got to talk a little bit about pharmacists, because I want to emphasize that you were so much more than just a dispensary. You've mentioned Ted Smith a few times, and another great guy, of course, with the VCBC out on the West Coast, offering people a place to consume their medicine. Because as we know, not everybody can just go home and smoke a joint. They're living in, shared accommodations. They're living in buildings that are smoke-free. They're living in condos and residences that don't allow cannabis consumption. And all kinds of situations where they can't consume. And it's not like you can just, go stand outside. We do live in Canada, and you are in Nova Scotia, which is one of the coldest provinces in the winter time. And of course, we've got like 6 to 7 months a year of that kind of weather.
And no public consumption
spaces are needed.
And I believe no public consumption there.
Yeah.
Oh no, there is in the city of Halifax, there is public consumption. You have to go to an area that allows smoking. In the little town that I'm in, you can't smoke anything. There is no public consumption. So it really depends on where you are in Nova Scotia.
So there are people that cannot walk down the sidewalk or down the middle of the road and smoke a joint.
Legally, correct.
So consumption spaces are needed.
Yeah,
for
big time.
Sure. And you brought that in, Chris, along with your business model. You're like, we need a lounge.
Yeah, it was a really important part of the model, and it's certainly something I miss dearly. Not just for the ability to smoke in a public place with others, but there was really a whole sense of culture and education outside of or formal and organized education events that happened around the culture that built up in that lounge. It was a safe place where people from all different environments could come and just hang out for a bit. And, people were able to share their products that they had just purchased or that they had purchased elsewhere and say, hey, what are you smoking on? I'm smoking on this. And it really provided also an opportunity to hold both our dispensary and other businesses to account, in that if you had a poor product, when you have a lounge where people are gathering prior to making purchases and after making purchases, product that doesn't meet the quality standard is going to get outed. And it's going to sit on the shelf for months and not go anywhere, because the first customer that tastes that unflushed flower is going to let everyone else in the lounge know, and then the telephone game happens and no one buys it. And I think that was a wonderful part of the service.
So
many friendships, even couples form, in an environment like that, which is something we don't have today, and I miss dearly. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, I mean, you inspired a second lounge to open, even a third, I believe, at one point in time, to open in the area. And for a couple of years, it was really great for people like me who would travel to the city. And like you say, the pharmacists, you guys didn't just offer the ability to have a lounge. You offered education in the form of, you would have movie nights with cannabis movies. I even remember you putting on meals for people who were, alone during holidays. So you reached out to the patients in more than just helping them with medicine. You helped them with support, and that's remembered in the community.
Sure is.
Yeah, I think that was one of the real benefits of having a physical space, and then also having, at that time period, a little bit of extra revenue, was that we were able to reach out and do some of these things that pulled together the community. And Peace East, we used to have this summer festival for over 3 days, and, we'd see anywhere from 100 to 200 people, come out to the middle of the country and gather in that kind of really intimate setting when you're camping together. And, so many memories and so many connections were formed through those events that, I think COVID has put the brakes on some of them, certainly. And, in terms of just general gathering restrictions, but certainly the knockdown that happened in the 2019 and 2020 raids, really hurt us too. I have conditions where I'm not allowed to even go into any of my own storefronts. So, even I'm not really able to interact with patients one-on-one in the same way that I was able to. I'm not talking to them on a day in and day out basis. So even hearing complaints and problems and that, I'm more distant from than ever. And, I long for that day where I'm back one-on-one and inside those doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would be in the lounge a lot. I mean, if somebody came in and had a technical question, about anything. I mean, I remember you coaching other people who were going through court cases and helping them with your knowledge, answering questions about this product or that product, or, meeting with a cancer patient to answer their questions. I mean, you were there a lot to do that. There were very few times that I walked into that lounge and there wasn't one, you or your ex-wife, Jess, there at some point in time to answer questions. And so you were both very, connected with the community in that way, there to answer questions and give advice and, give unsuspecting, women from the Windsor, Nova Scotia, their first stab, because, and it was a great space, and it was a safe space to be able to learn like that. And I miss spaces like that.
Yeah.
I've had a brief opportunity in the past month where there's been this strange wave of relatives who have connected with me through Facebook and been asking various cannabis questions, CBD questions in the nature. And so I'm able to have those, detailed conversations and education style conversations. And I have to tell you, it's been nostalgic, which seems strange because it's it was so recent that I was inside the store, but yet it feels so long since I've had those meaningful conversations with people, and it's kind of from providing an inspiration to figure out whatever the heck it is I got to do to get back on those front lines, like directly one-on-one with the patients, and I need to figure that out, because that's where I both find my value, I think, in terms of day-to-day, and I think I have something to offer. So.
Absolutely.
And that brings
there's no question. You have some stuff to offer.
Yeah, that brings you right back to the beginning of the show. You said like Kim said, you're in Toronto. You said you went to Dalhousie to be involved in medical end of things, which is helping patients. And as you're just saying now, I want to get back to that same spot. That's where. Yeah, it's a full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a co-op in high school, and there was a doctor in the laboratory that I worked for that said, you don't have to become a medical doctor to be a doctor. And he was trying to get something into my head, and I think he could foresee that, maybe I wasn't medical doctor material. Maybe he saw something that I didn't and still don't. But the point being was that, there's all kinds of opportunities to help people on a medical level, and finding your niche and thriving is important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I think you found your niche. You've just got to get through these current challenges that you're facing, and come out the other side of that, and then pick up where you left off after some very long thought on what direction you want to go to next. And I'm excited to watch, Chris. I really am. Your journey has been amazing. Your dedication is the depth of your dedication is seen rarely in this community. There's a small handful of people that I could pick out that have the depth of dedication to this plant and to the patients that you have. And I'm in awe of a lot of what you're doing. You're to me, you're up there, with Ted Smith and a small handful of others that actually give a shit about the patients, the plant, and what you're doing. And it's not just about the almighty buck. And that's inspirational, not only to me, but to many others, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I can, be a small part of the inspiration for a wave to come up behind and keep this whole thing going, because when I shook Justice Cromwell's hand after the Supreme Court of Canada win in Smith, he was doing a little talk out here in Halifax, and I made sure to get my way into that talk and go and thank him for that amazing decision. And he just looked me deep in the eyes, and he was like, "This is step one, bud. We're like at the beginning. Like there is so much more work for you to do. Like get to work, man." And then there's the last thing he said is, "Don't forget the children. Like the children are just being left out of this conversation." And I really still haven't had the guts to really step up on that front. And there's so much work that needs to be done in terms of educating doctors, helping patients network with doctors that actually support pediatric cannabinoid use in various formats, and then helping parents and helping children actually find reasonable and dignified access, because I think we're a long way behind on the benefit that there's potential for there. And I think individuals like myself who are in that dispensary framework and who are facing legal battles, we're petrified of putting ourselves in that space, and adding that extra lens. And I think his point was that you got to let down that fear and get to work on that part of it. And I haven't taken up that torch yet, but that keeps ringing in my ear.
Well, if it keeps ringing in your ear, there's a reason for that, and I reflect on, children like Michaela, and, parents like Mandy McKnight, Kim Martell. There's dozens upon dozens of them out there, and they're kids that are using and benefiting. Their lives are being benefited by the use of cannabis.
They have a life. They have a life. They're alive because they're using cannabis. There's so many kids out there that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that is one area that that does scare a lot of people. Nobody wants children's services or the cops coming after them because you are involved with doing something with a child. Big red flags there. Everybody's running for the hills. I get it. But, you know, that little voice that was telling you that, they're right. It is a forgotten element or a left out element in this movement that needs to be addressed for sure.
Yeah. Alrighty. I see you're at the bottom of the hour. We could probably go on for hours more, so we're just gonna have Chris come back.
Yes. We'll have to do a follow-up. I heard you mention, you know, early spring for one of your cases. Maybe we'll have you back, you know, for a 420 show or a 420 celebration and see if there's been any movement on any of the fronts for you on future cases that you have coming up.
Sounds like a plan.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
Okay, we're in a shout-out time then. So, Chris, you're first. Shout-out, person, place, a thing, website. You know, if you want to give out contact information, that's totally up to yourself. Whatever. Go ahead.
Well, the big shout-out I want to give is the inspiration that I constantly get from Chris Backer and the Cannabis Substitution Project that he's been diligently working on weekly here, helping those with you know, opiate issues and struggles, you know, access an alternative that they can see a light and a path that provides an alternative with perhaps, you know, less side effects and perhaps some healing to go on. And, you know, there's been different community organizations and individuals that have been gathering around to help him support him in that effort. And it's really become incredible, some of the stories we're hearing from people benefiting from that. And so big shout out to Chris Packer and the Cannabis Substitution Program out here.
Big time.
Awesome.
Yes.
And how do people get a hold of you to support you?
Well, they can download the Pharmacist app in their iPhone or Android store. We have a pretty wicked app. Not sure too many dispensaries can say that, so check that out. Or our website, www.thepharmacist.com. All the contact information can also be found there.
All right.
For our radio listeners out there, that's farm as in farming, FARM, and then assist.
Yeah.
Now, is that assist or assists with an S on the end?
With an S. So
with an S.
ASSISTS.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so you know, I'm doing the search. Oh, there it is. Look at that right there. I hit the get button. I'm downloading it. Install.
Download the app. There we go. We're getting the app.
Done. All right. Good. Okay. Kim. Shout out.
Shout out. I'm not prepared. I'm going to give my shout out to our new show. It was a great success. Join us every other week for Psychedelic Reporters. On the weeks that Psychedelic Reporters isn't on, we have our other show, Open Your Eye, a focus on psychedelics. So join us for on Tuesdays here on the network for Psychedelic Tuesdays each and every week, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with my joint host, Cindy Howell.
All right, Cindy, your turn. Shout out.
Oh, I would have to repeat what Kim said. Psychedelic Tuesdays. Join Kim and I every Tuesday on here on Pace Radio. Alternate. Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that and join Cindy and Ron tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern with the Reefer Reporters.
Absolutely, with the Reefer Reporters. You just have to read the news, Ron.
Just got to read the news, Ron. That's all.
All right. Kim and I will be back next week, same time, same place, with our special guest. You can find the Pace Radio Show on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Pace Radio. You can find us online at paceradio.net, Pace Radio Show, pace-online.ca. Pick your choice. Thank yous go to our sponsors, the friendly and helpful folks at legacy420.com, bmahydroponics.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, drbuckcts.com, who's a cannabis trimming service. Also, thank you to our guest, Chris Enns, a pharmacist. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, Chris, and talking to everybody about your situation and the raids and the history of the pharmacist. I really enjoyed it.
It was great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And to my joint hosts, my co-joint hosts tonight. I've never said that. Kim Cooper and Cindy Howell. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for coming on the show and all that, Cindy, as well. The extra duty tonight. And as well, thank you to our listeners for tuning in the program. And good night.
Good night.
You know I blame it on industry.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Do you want to hear what patients and cannabis advocates have to say? If so, then catch the Pace Radio Show Wednesday nights here on paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.